Clemson got their face really kicked in yesterday. LSU dominated Clemson at the lines of scrimmage. LSU came out, and it was very evident to me in the first quarter, man, I might be in trouble here. As I picked Clemson to win, I didn't pick them to dominate. I was very cautious, as people that I am close to told me they thought LSU had a good chance and actually would straight up win this game. So I held my tongue, even though I thought Clemson had a lot of good matchup edges here. I held my tongue. I thought to myself, hey, you know what? Just pick Clemson to win. Watch the game, see how it unfolds. I'm glad that I didn't pick a Clemson blowout here, because if anything, if you play this game over again, the only team who was going to enforce a blowout on the other was LSU over Clemson. Clemson's defense kept them in the game, forcing some of those key turnovers. Brian Kelly being an absolute moron on that 4th and 2 with 12 seconds left to go. That was very bad. I think that was the coaching low of the entire game from both sides. That, and also Garrett Riley trying to call a quarterback run on 3rd and 5. Before we resume this segment, please take a few seconds of your time to make sure you have liked the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for the channel and for any team podcasts and playlists linked in the description, and also comment your thoughts down below in the comment section and join my Discord server via the description. All of those things I just asked you to do are completely free, and they sign you up for things related to my channel, or they don't sign you up for anything. No cost to you, and all the benefit to you, because we release daily college football content here on College Football with Sam. If you want to support the channel monetarily, sign up for a YouTube membership, or check any other links in the description for my merchandise store and Patreon page. Thank you very much, and let's get back to the segment. When LSU had held Clemson to a excellent 32 yards rushing with 1.7 yards per rush. And it's not as if LSU sacked Klubnik 8 times. They got to him twice. They had several other pressures too. But Klubnik was good enough to escape the pocket, usually, and throw the football away. It was an absolute dominant performance. LSU was down early to Clemson, 3-0. Clemson at halftime had a 76.6% chance to win. And by the time the fourth quarter started, that had shifted to a 73.2 LSU percent chance to win. That's because LSU outgained Clemson 356 to 262 in total yards. LSU had 2 turnovers, but they forced 1 from Clemson. LSU had 25 first downs to LSU's 13, nearly double the first downs. Both teams had about 50 yards in penalties. LSU was 0 of 1 on 4th down. That was the one inside the 15 where they passed the ball and fumbled. It was one of the most bizarre decisions and play calls of the year. But Clemson was 2 of 4 on 4th down, and LSU had the football for 37 minutes and 10 seconds of the game. They win 17-10. They cover that 4.5. If that game was played at LSU, that could have been a LSU blowout. It was shocking to me how dominant they looked in the trenches, especially when they replaced 4 starters on the offensive line, and they had a lot of new pieces and players on the defensive line, and also lost their defensive line coach. That's a credit to Brian Kelly and Blake Baker and Joe Sloan. It's a credit to that staff. And also Cortez Hankton. His receivers played well. They matched Clemson's receiver talent. Straight up, I mean, Clemson disappointed me in a variety of ways. They had 8 tackles for loss and a sack, and their defense played well. Their defense actually played much better than I expected it to. But that offense, we've seen from Garrett Riley, has actually been a weakness of his whole tenure. So in 2022, TCU plays Texas. They win mostly because of their defense, holding Texas to 3 offensive points. They play Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game, and I think Kansas State holds them to 28 points, and it's not like Kansas State had a ton of talent on defense. They have success against Michigan, but they had a ton, and I mean a ton of big plays where if you change a thing or two about some of those big plays, Michigan looks a lot better defensively. And they had 2 pick sixes against Michigan. So the 51 points they scored in reality were 37 points. And if you change a thing or two about the game, Michigan holds them to the mid or lower 20s. In his first year with Clemson, they can't score in the red zone. Last year, their high point of the season is scoring 24 points against Texas. This year, looks pretty similar. are we wrong to say that out of these two, the paper tiger might be Clemson, and Clemson at least for this year, or LSU at least for this year's the real tiger? I thought it was the opposite. I thought that LSU was going to be a huge paper tiger this year, and that Clemson. I keep getting them mixed up. I think because both are the Tigers and both are Death Valley. I thought that Clemson was going to be the legitimate national title contender of the bunch this year. What a call by J.D. Pickell and the others who backed LSU here. That was an excellent decision. I mean, they were physical at the lines of scrimmage. Blake Baker was calling up blitzes, whether from corners or linebackers, and he was sending guys forward and bringing pressure. And and Clemson's offensive line, there I go mixing them up again. Clemson's offensive line just couldn't handle it. They kept missing assignments, not picking up incoming defenders. And Klubnik consequently was helpless for much of the game. And look, Klubnik's getting a lot of hate today, but I thought he was better than Arch Manning, personally. You know, Manning was protected almost perfectly for the entire game. Whenever Manning was sacked or came very close to it, it was either a missed assignment, which happened maybe once or twice, or he didn't make the proper read, or Texas asked him to do too much. They had a bad play call. I don't think it was that extreme for Clemson, where Clemson's issues or Klubnik's issues stemmed more from just straight up he could not be protected. LSU got pressure after pressure after pressure, blitz after blitz after blitz, that Clemson's O-line, despite having 4 starters returning, being very experienced, I thought they were going to be near elite in pass blocking, just maybe good or average in run blocking. They couldn't do anything. Anything. I have real doubts about Clemson moving forward. Not as much as I do Alabama. I think Clemson's issues are much more easily fixed as they find a rushing game. And now that they've faced a team that is legitimate at the lines of scrimmage this early, and it wasn't as bad of a butt kicking as what they suffered to Georgia last year. So this Clemson team is clearly better than last year's. I think at least at the start of both seasons, I think they can move forward, and not having Antonio Williams obviously hurts. LSU had 246 passing yards for 6.3 yards per attempt, and Garrett Nussmeier had an 82.7 QBR with a touchdown. I have fully changed the script. Now, do I think Nussmeier is the best QB in America? I still don't think that. And I thought he was overrated preseason, but I don't think he's overrated anymore. Nussmeier was a gamer against a defense from Clemson that was fixed by Tom Allen. I am not going to criticize Nussmeier from here on out. I'm not. Not going to. He was on fire. Him and his offense, the team overall was confident. Brian Kelly looked nervous at the start of the game, and I think he was. I think that's why he called that 4th and 2 at the entering half. I genuinely think Kelly didn't believe his team could or would win at that point. But they did, I think, because their coordinators were better. And also because I think Clemson's, mostly Garrett Riley, I think Allen did a good job, but Clemson's talent's a little more limited than a lot of people thought in the preseason. So PFF and Max Chadwick, who's one of their main analysts, he does a good job. He picked Clemson to win it all. And I think sometimes the numbers guys, and I think I'm one of them, sometimes we fall too in love with player grades and with analytics. And analytics, we try to adjust them for strength of schedule and competition, but it's really hard to do that, especially in college football. And I think this is a game where LSU recruiting better than Clemson recently and developing just as well, if not better, along the offensive line. I think Brad Davis has been a really good O-line coach. Very, very underrated. And LSU has recruited good enough on defense, and Blake Baker's done a good enough job previously at different stops, to where it was simply LSU was an SEC team, as much as the SEC struggled yesterday. LSU was SEC, Clemson was an ACC team that hasn't yet figured out how to fully unlock their talent or to play in physical fistfights and come out with a victory. I think that's what it really came down to. LSU didn't run the ball great. They gave up 8 TFLs, but they averaged 3.8 yards per carry, broke 100 yards, and look, Caden Durham was good. Clemson had 32 yards rushing. 32. They couldn't run the ball to save their life. And while Clemson, when it mattered at times, had a 100% power run success, that was on one play. Clemson was reduced to essentially passing the ball whenever they wanted to move it, and they were forced to be one-dimensional. LSU could stay balanced, and that allowed them to emerge with a win, a key win. I would say I don't think LSU's a lock to go to the playoffs, but they're very close because I think Clemson is better than South Carolina. They're probably better than Texas A&M. Heck, they're better than Alabama. Clemson would have beaten Alabama yesterday. And they're probably better than Oklahoma. Clemson right now is probably the best team in LSU's schedule. And this is coming from someone who at some point thought that LSU was going to win 7 games and Kelly would get fired. At the beginning of the year, I thought they'd go about 8-4. Then I put him back a little at 7 wins, maybe 6, just thinking that they'd implode after a bad start. And before kickoff, I kind of pegged them, as you saw in my college football playoff predictions video, the final one, I had them winning 9 games. Thought, they're going to disappoint again, but they're still a pretty good team. I mean, they made wonderful portal additions on defense. The portal additions clicked like that. Just straight up, simple as it gets. Wonderful additions. Another credit to LSU here is they developed Harold Perkins, finally. He's found a home. You know what he is? He's David Ojabo. He's, I think that's actually the perfect comparison right there. He's a linebacker you put in pass rush situations, and he's so athletic that he's very hard to stop. That's his position. He is a very, very Walmart Will Anderson, David Ojabo type player. That's what you do with him, and he fits that role wonderfully. Does LSU keep up this type of game is a big question, because I think they came out with intensity, with fire. I think LSU played their A or A+ game. I think Clemson has more to grow from than LSU. If these teams were to rematch, later in the season, I think Clemson would make this more of a even contest and less of a, physical butt kicking than it ended up being. Keep in mind, Clemson got up early in large part because of LSU turning it over and Clemson's defense being a huge part of that. If not for that turnover that gave Clemson great position to get into field goal range, LSU wins by double digits. And if Kelly kicks that field goal before the half, it's the same thing. LSU really dominated the game, and I just think it was Brian Kelly maybe being a bit anxious and not believing in his team that kept Clemson in it for maybe longer than they should have been if it was another Saturday and these teams were once again playing each other for the first time in week 1. It was just an alternate universe here. So can LSU keep this intensity up? The great teams know how to. Is LSU a great team? They sure looked like it in week 1. I think they're a top 10 team right now. With someone who didn't even have them ranked top 15 entering the year, I'm certainly going to bump them up here. And is Clemson a paper tiger? Clemson, one of the takeaways I had, sorry for flipping the wrong one. Clemson, one of the takeaways I had from the Tigers after last night was, damn, this team is 0-4 against the SEC since the end of the 2023 season. If you count the 2023 season, I think they are, 2-4? Going back to 2022, they are 2-6. Going back to 2021, they are 3-7. They have not had, going back to 2019 even, still have a losing record, beat South Carolina but got dominated by LSU. They have not had success against the more physical, talented teams they've played. Clemson, over the past several years, ever since the start of 2021, has feasted on the weaker, less talented teams, and when it's time for them to beat someone of their talent level or better, they fold up like a lawn chair. I said it in the preseason, I think, or maybe not publicly on the channel, but I think I did. James Franklin right now has a better coaching resume over the past 5 years than Dabo Swinney does. James Franklin, the guy we all make fun of for not winning big games. He has a better resume, straight up, than Dabo Swinney does. Right now, I think that Franklin is a better coach than Swinney. Like, at this current moment, Franklin's the better coach. And I don't think Franklin's quite a top 10 coach yet. Brian Kelly, after this game, for all of his faults at LSU thus far, he's still a really good coach. On an overall basis, I think especially looking at it at a big picture view, he outcoached Dabo Swinney. That's massive. It's massive. It's a program win. This is a program win for LSU. This win makes it such that Brian Kelly's here to stay, I think, for the long term. Because if they reach the playoffs this year, his job's totally safe. It's a reset. And then the goal becomes winning a national title. But in this day and age, if you're not winning a title, but you're consistently getting to the playoffs, I think even at a place like LSU, you're not going to get fired, especially with these massive buyouts and how he's recruited, especially this cycle where they've had a lot of high quality commits. Also keep in mind, LSU won this game and did so well on defense even without AJ Halsey. That's very impressive. I think that my biggest reaction to this game is LSU's a true national title contender and a true SEC contender. And also that Blake Baker is a legitimate, good, great defensive coordinator. Same with Tom Allen. Clemson's defense outperformed my expectations too. Clemson's just outperformed them to a more severe degree. And last but not least, I already said this, but I was wrong about Garrett Nussmeier. He's a gamer. He is a great quarterback, and the connection he has with those receivers and the command he has of that offense is special. I am very curious, very anxious to see where... Excuse me, just had something stuck in my throat that was pretty gross. I'm very anxious and curious to see where Clemson goes from here. Very curious. Because this team, if they play like this yet again, and if they don't radically change their rushing offense, how they call games when talent is equal, and how they compete and physically fight in games where talent is equal or they have a talent disadvantage, then this isn't a national championship caliber team. It's just straight up not. And while I picked them to go 13-0, and it's already been proven wrong, and I kind of regret that, one of the reasons I had them power rated outside of my top two, I had Texas and Georgia ahead of them, and Penn State. Now I would most definitely add an Ohio State to that mix, and probably Oregon. The reason I had them at fourth, like the AP voters, but not as high as 2 or 1 like some did, is losing the way they did to Georgia last year, South Carolina, Texas, and Louisville is a red flag. It is. It's not like they were returning top 5 production, and a lot of it, like Michigan did in 23. They returned 80%, a little bit more than that, of their production from a top 4, top 3, according to some top 2 team in 2022, who probably right now would be the number 1 team in the country, behind maybe Penn State. Clemson didn't do that. They returned 80 to 85% of their production. It was actually 80% on the dot from a fringe top 15 team last year. And apparently I was still too high on them. And obviously too low on LSU. Thank you for watching College Football with Sam. Make sure that you've liked the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for the channel and team playlists and podcasts in the description, join the free Discord server where we talk college football 24/7, and have commented your thoughts down below. Check out the description for any ways you can support the channel monetarily. Everything else I've asked you to do is completely free, and your support means the world to me. We're trying to become the next big thing on college football YouTube. 6-figure subscribers, maybe 1 million one day. I think we can do that. And also check out any videos or playlists, anything in these columns right here, where there will be videos and playlists. Yeah, you get the point. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one.